Welcome to our Buzz online tutorial. So as you'll see, I am in the course for biology. When you first arrive to Buzz, this should be your home screen. Hopefully you'll have more than just the one class that you're working on. But for right now, for this tutorial, we're going to click on biology. Even though this is a subject you may not be working on, I hope that this tutorial is helpful for any course that you are taking within the system itself. When you arrive to your courses, you'll see what you last visited and what's up next. So as you see, we're already completed Unit 1 and we are in Unit 2. Here you'll see the green check marks to show you where you're at. So we currently are going to be working on Lesson 2. At the beginning of every lesson, you'll notice that there's key vocab words for you to focus in on to help you get through the material that's going to be below. Another good tool that you may see is this highlighting feature. So as you go through and you read information, you may want to select important information that could be used later on to answer some questions. So for example, an organelle means little organ. You may find this information helpful when it comes to answering questions. When you're done with your highlighter tool, you can click on the button again and you'll notice we go back to our pointer. As you go through and you read the information and look at different videos, occasionally look at different items, occasionally you may notice that some of the questions are embedded after each section. Other times you may have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to see the questions that you're working on. When you're ready to start to begin to answer questions, you'll notice there's two little buttons here. The first button is to add a bookmark. So maybe this is a question that I don't necessarily feel very comfortable with, or that I might want to come back and review later before I go to submit my answers. So once you have this here, anytime you go to submit your answers down at the bottom, it may remind you again that you have some bookmark, and do you want to fully submit or do you want to go back and check those? So for our first question, it says blank means little organ. Well, for some of us, we notice we just highlighted that in our option above. Organelle means little organ. So I'll come down, and we now know that organelle means little organ. As we scroll to our next question, it says an organelle where amino acids are joined to make protein is a blank. Again, I can bookmark it, or I can also option to click on notes. This is where I can type in notes that I may have found in the reading, or it may be somewhere where you want to type a question you may want to ask your instructor at another time, maybe during one of their office sessions as you work virtually. Sometimes as you go through, you may remember, I don't really remember reading about amino acids. So a good feature to utilize is holding down to go back up into the reading. And once you're in the reading, you hit Control F. You'll notice this little box up at the top appears. This is a find feature. So if I stuck on a question and it says an organelle where amino acids are joined, so I may type in amino acids. And I notice that this is the only section in which it is found. So maybe we go back and we're going to try another keyword. Well, it says amino acids are joined to make proteins. So maybe I need to see where proteins is located. Well, as you'll notice, there are 10 different places where protein is mentioned. So this says the Golgi apparatus. The cell was named after Mr. Golgi. And then it says other parts of the cells send macromolecules like proteins and lipids to the Golgi apparatus. The packages are processed in different wrapping, and eventually the packages are transported out of the Golgi apparatus. Additionally, if I continue to check the box, it's going to show me where others are. Ribosome says its special job is to assemble proteins. So ribosomes exist to make proteins. Well, assemble and joined sound very similar. So I'm going to go ahead and select ribosome for question number 2. The next question says the blank provides structure and support to the cell. Well, if I see that there's different options here, and maybe I know a little bit about some of these, as we learned in the last lesson, cytoplasm could be something that supports the cell, but I definitely know that it's not mitochondria because I remember that mitochondria has more to do with energy. So I can use this tool up here called Answer Eliminator to cross at least that option out. So I know not to go back and look that one up. Again, if you're struggling, you can always remember to go back up here to the Find Feature box. And we're going to see what provides structure and support. So right here, we see that the cytoskeleton's definition is to provide structure and support to the cell. So I'm going to scroll back down to my questions and go ahead and turn off my answer eliminator because I no longer need it and select cytoplasm. You'll continue to go through and read through the information and answer the questions as needed. Some questions you come to may require you to type in the answer. So you can type it in that box there. Other questions, such as these, you'll notice have changed. Instead of having circles, you'll now notice that there are boxes here. Sometimes you'll see that the questions will tell you, select all that apply. Other times it may not be so obvious, so be careful when answering questions such as these that if you see boxes, you have the capability of selecting more than one. So let's go through. This says, identify which of the following are true about plant and animal cells. We know that plants have chloroplasts in order to do photosynthesis. And this says mitochondria can only be found in animal cells. Well, that definitely is not true. We also know that plant cells have cell walls. The next one says cytoplasm can be found in plant cells. Well, we also know that's not true because it can be found in all types of cells. And the last one is that plant cells have one large vacuole while animal cells have several smaller vacuoles. In reading through the lesson, I know that that also could be true. Now that you've answered all of your questions, you'll notice you get all the way to the bottom, and when there's no more questions, you could go ahead and select Submit. Now here you go. It's reminded me that I bookmarked question 1. So let's go back. It's always a good idea to go back and check, just to make sure you are in fact ready to submit. So remember, this is the one we originally used the Control F feature on. So we're going to go ahead and unbookmark it and say, yes, we are in fact ready to submit our questions. The computer will do the grading, and once you are done, you'll notice your overall score over here. It's always a good idea to shoot for getting something that's an 80 or higher. Now, sometimes when you get to quizzes and practice tests, you won't be able to move on until you've received an 80 or higher. So it's always good when you're working on lessons to get practice. While it is possible to get below a 70, just know that even though you were able to move on, your teacher may ask you to go back and do work to show that you really do understand the material that was covered in that particular lesson. If you're a perfectionist and always want to try to do your best, you're always welcome to come down here and select the Retake button. This will allow you to reset all your questions and go back and answer them again. Before we move on to our next lesson, though, it is highly important that you always come back up here next to your grade and you'll see this little I. When we click on it, it gives us more information. For example, it gave me my score, that I'd completed the lesson, and the day and time that I did it, and about how long we worked on it. Next, you can go to questions. Here's a great place for you to go and review all of the questions that were in this particular lesson. If you're familiar with our curriculum, you know that a lot of these questions can come up once or twice, which is usually a good clue that they might actually be on the unit test as well. But as we scroll through, we notice that we got question number 3 wrong. We selected cytoskeleton when it should have been cytoplasm. Easy mistake. But this is a good opportunity for you to go ahead and take notes on those things that you got wrong so that you have them to review when it comes to taking quizzes. Again, in the box below, it's going to give you an example or a statement explaining what the true answer is and what you need to know about it. So always good opportunity for us to be able to go back and take notes and study and advance in the unit. Again, scrolling through, you're welcome to take notes on things you got right as well. But there we have it. I hope that you find this tutorial helpful as it comes to not only biology, but any course that you're enrolled in BUZZ, and that you're working with your teacher, even though virtually, to help get you through the coursework at hand.